In 1906, they produced a flat disc machine along with their own records, and that became a success. The trademark that they chose for the Pathé Brothers equipment and machines, talking machines and motion pictures, came as a result of importing these Columbia phonographs, and one of the most successful machines that they altered and gave their own style of appearance to was the Columbia Eagle machine. A direct copy of the Columbia Eagle in their own box with a reproducer and horn of their own design led to the trademark of their brand or company, the Pathé Brothers, of Le Coq, or the rooster, that we see on the Pathé items, which is a direct spin-off of the Columbia Eagle. A little risky when it comes to patent infringements and trademark infringements, but nonetheless they proceeded. And we have an example from Dave's collection of the Pathé cock.
I love this. The rooster crows. I wonder if Dave does this every morning.
Advertising of Pathé machines can be frequently found in the older magazines, not only the talking machine world, but it was quite a popular machine because not only would you play the hill and dale or vertically modulated groove of the early Pathé records, but the machine could also play the 78 records by turning the reproducer and adapting it to 78 play. You could have a multi-purpose machine.
And it came with instructions of how to do both. Isn't that wonderful? And by the way, did you know an upright machine costs $107? Bill of sale. A bill of sale. Isn't that great? Really good look at that. There's a rooster. I know it's Pathé.
There it is on the order form for Pathé phonographs and records. Something to be highly prized by. A duster for your machine.
And of course needles. And the needles are a little special when you find them because they have that rounded point. Isn't that correct?
They have the it's a sapphire ball needle stylus. Right.
Oh, we have, of course, this is kind of interesting.
Yeah, the O'Neill James Company of Chicago distributed not only the vacuum cleaners and talking machines, the Aretino records, and of course Busy Bee machines, but also the Pathé, which is in the logo of the rooster.
If anybody went to newsreels in those days when they were probably spooning at the movies.
The Pathé newsreel, very popular at the movie houses.
Here's the Pathé de Mille Studios, 1927, 1928. Oh, that rooster got around.
So the Pathé did for the for the rooster, you know, a good rooster never gets fat, right? They did for that rooster what the Victor Company did for the dog. Made him a very collectible and recognizable figure in the phonograph industry.
Right. Well, I think we need some amusement now. So,
Yeah, enough of the serious stuff.
Let's get something for the children.
Something a little more.
Yes, yes. Let's go look at some
more
phonograph
entertaining.
toys here.
And of course, jobbers wouldn't have a store that wouldn't be without entertainment devices for the phonograph. After all, the marvelous invention of the phonograph, the miracle of the 19th century, led to the entertainment of the early 20th century, and a lot of entertainment type devices that you could buy for your Victrolas and for your talking machines. Among the most popular may have been this little guy called Ragtime Rastus. This dancing toy came in a box, usually with some other items such as the boxers or his sister, Shamandi. who also works on the same type of mechanism. And this was made by the National Toy Company of Boston. For you jobbers, you may want to place an order for your ragtime rastus dancers. They're only $1.25 each. If you order the boxers, those are $1.50. You get two though. Right? And Shamandi was $1.65.
Where's Shamandi? Oh, there she is. Oh, she's wonderful.
Okay, let's
Yeah, don't forget.
let's play. Dan, do you want to?
Oh, we also have the roosters. They're kind of nifty.
And of course the yes the.
Go ahead.
Fighting roosters, not quite as popular as Shamandi or Dancing Rastas, but the roosters are a nice addition to the collection.
We got a surprise machine here. Where's Larry? I don't know what this. What is that again? There we go.
I didn't know they were supposed to work.
Oh, hi Larry.
And of course he'll dance for hours, never gets tired, perhaps opposed to the music.
We have to tell them, there's this war on, and we're going to win, but take a look at what Uncle Sam is doing. We're going to win that
Great war is going to be won by Uncle Sam just kicking Kaiser Bill's butt. He's carrying the whole pretzel. And these dancing toys work whether you play a ragtime, foxtrot, or even a waltz. All the same steps.
We have other toys here too. Let's take that one off. Here, let's talk about this.
The Record Pressing and Recording Company of New York for 78 players. Well, let's show what this is. Made along with other companies, similar companies, made little novelty record and viewing device, which is an animation device which works on the principle of persistence of vision, and the records are unique. And if you ever find a little what looks to be a children's record, and maybe some will say Red Raven on them, but it has multiple figures that look the same around the perimeter of the record, that is to be used with one of these, which is a rotating mirror which will put the figures into animation. And if people in the front will be able to see the action of it.
It's a
And
little
when you look into the rotating,
jumping over a flower.
when you look into the
And it
rotating
makes it.
mirror,
Definitely jumps over and makes it all the time, right?
yeah. So right in your own home, you can have a kind of a little animated motion picture that lasts for as long as the record, and it might come in a little box illustrating the action viewer.
We have one more.
Robin place I am too.
We have one more toy.
So phonograph jobber or store would be complete without Siam Sue. Probably the greatest invention for the phonograph since the reproducer. Siam Sue shimmies, she wiggles, she dances, she sways. Certainly to get the attention of your husband, and certainly to get the attention of your customers. Siam Sue is a mechanical device that works on the turntable, and it is going to activate the mechanism which causes her to do her dance.
There's a special record. Yeah, let Dan tell about the record.
Along with Siam Sue, we have a special offer that goes with Siam Sue. The Columbia Phonograph Company has produced for us a series of Siam Sue recordings. There are several different recordings that are recommended for Siam Sue, but the one that you want is called Siam Sue. It is number A3379, and it's recorded by the Happy Six. Flip side is Make Believe by the All-Storia Dance Orchestra. We'll demonstrate the action of Siam Sue.
Next, let's see what a beginning collector can collect in these smalls. Dan, what have you collected so far? How old are you, by the way? Oh, God, I know. 8th grade, let me see.
Okay, first, what I picked up is this little light bulb. I picked it up at a flea market down south.
Before Rob and Joan.
It is a pear-shaped light bulb with horseshoe filament, and it was also stolen from the Illinois steel factory.
Yeah, that's kind of neat because, you know, bulbs were so precious back then that if you took them, there was an engraving on them. And it would say that you stole it from this Illinois Steel Company.
Oh.
So that's kind of neat, something to look for. What else you got?
And if you find one, you'll know it works, because the obviously the ones that didn't work and burned out were discarded and destroyed. Only the stolen ones work.
I also got Thomas Edison listening to his newly invented battery acid phonograph. It is. My Aunt Joan said it's going to be collectible because it was made by antique.
So it's limited edition.
Today I picked this up at Flea Market here, and it is called, it's from 1948, and it's called Black Phonograph.
Good one. Oh,
I also picked these up today, or well, this one anyways. They're Edison oil bottles.
so you're going to be a fan of Donnie Bell someday. And this one is a flat one, which is a little rarer than the round one, isn't it? What else you got from Edison?
I got a Edison grease jar. Something picked up. And I also got a Edison key with dolphins on it.
John talked about that.
I got a little coupon for when you bought 10 cents purchase at the store, electric shop. You got this coupon, and whenever you get enough coupons, you get a free appliance.
Right.
This is my little phonograph.
Oh, where do we put your pen? He's got two real phonographs.
And this is a book about the Babson brothers, from how they started out with coffee machines and went into milking machines.
Appropriate since we're from Wisconsin. Good job. I think he's going to be a good collector someday. What do we have next?
Christmas time?
Christmas time. That means we get a Christmas record.
I think we'll have Christmas in August here.
Yeah, where's the record? Here it is. Okay, we're going to have Christmas in August instead of Christmas in July. And thanks to Lowell and Joyce Gerhardt, they brought some Christmas collectibles, which I think is kind of nifty. And as Dan said, he started collecting light bulbs. Well, I can remember when Lowell bought this particular advertising piece for the Edison Mazda lamps. And of course, Santa is holding one of these Edison Mazda lamps with the tip. Just absolutely precious. I think this is going to go home to Wisconsin, but I doubt it. This is a Nipper snowball. I won't shake it because I understand what does he do, Lowell? He's not that clean. He needs clean water. This is fabulous, I feel, for any Nipper collector. Absolutely love it. Other things that we have here, oh, we're going to have some Christmas music? Oh, these are wonderful. These little record postals. Of course, here we have Christmas greetings. And speaking of that, I absolutely love all these postcards. You can imagine this.
Hello, little folks. Do you know who I am? Just guess. Why, you've heard of me every Christmas.
Right.
Who is it you say?
And I'm just going to show you something.
Close all
This
the
card
doors.
that talks.
And I'll
Isn't
tell
that
you a
wonderful?
secret. I'm old Santa Claus. Perhaps you are surprised to find
These
me
are wonderful
hiding
records
in this phonograph.
that have a
For
Christmas
I'm
movie
right
on them.
here inside. Well,
And it's nice when you
I'll
find
tell
them
you
with the
all about
envelope.
it if you'll give me your word that you won't mention it
If
to
you
a
want to
soul.
trim your tree, you might want to try the Edison Mazda lamps.
Haven't you?
Yes,
with his
very
great
nice.
deep
And
white
if you're at the Henry
whiskers
Ford Museum,
halfway
one
down
time
to
we
the
were and I
ground,
picked up this
and
ornament,
his ruddy
and it
red
has the
cheeks
light bulb, the
and his
phonograph,
jolly
and
old
Edison on it.
smile.
So that's kind of
Well, I don't
And,
look like that just
look
now.
at this.
And I'll tell
This
you
is a
why.
wreath,
All night
and it's a
long,
record duster.
I've been
There's also a
climbing
Santa
in
one that
and
I
out
just
of
coveted,
chimneys,
which is wonderful that I did not
toys,
bring today.
and
And
candies,
this
and
is already
such
wrapped.
wonderful
And
presents
what's
for
inside?
all
A record
the folks.
repeater.
My
for
whiskers
Christmas.
are full of
So that's
goodness,
always fun.
and my beautiful
We are
red
listening
robe
to
with its
Santa
string
Hides
of
in the
white
Phonograph,
is
right?
as black
And Lowell,
as
isn't that one
black
also in
can
here?
be. I
This
didn't
is
want
by
you
Little
to see
Tots
looking
Records.
like that.
And these
So
are
when I
absolutely
heard you
beautiful.
coming,
It has
I
Santa on the
hid in
front.
this phonograph.
And in here we
But I
have
must be
one
off
that
now,
states
for
that
I still have
Santa
a few
Hides
presents
in the
for some little
Phonograph,
friends
which
of
is the
mine.
record that is
Let
playing
me
presently.
see. Here
We also
is
have
a toy
boxed
steamboat.
records that are absolutely wonderful. And don't forget to
And a
look for
toy
ads.
Calliope.
Oh, perfect
And
timing
the
as Santa comes
toy
down the
piano.
chimney. And these Victrola ads are so collectible.
And now
By
I
Victrola
wish you
with
all
Santa
a Merry
there.
Christmas
And then
and a Happy
this
New
past year, I
But
found
before
this
I
ad,
leave,
and I think
I'm
every
going to
dealer
sing
should
for
have
you
this
my
in their
favorite
shop.
song.
Will
Did you
there
ever
be a
hear
Victrola
Santa
in
Claus
your
sing?
home this Christmas?
Well, you're going to hear him
On
now.
touch, Wisconsin.
Jingle
Yes.
bells, jingle all the way.
Did Santa arrive?
Oh, what fun it is to
He
ride
did.
Santa's Christmas
Well,
sleigh.
Merry Christmas,
Jingle
and we'll go on
bells,
here.
jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in Santa's Christmas sleigh.
Are there any other gadgets to look for?
Well, since a lot of the phonographs and talking machines spawned an industry of collectibles and the idea of accessories, no person that is interested in the mechanics and the fine art of getting your phonograph working perfectly, in other words, a gadget freak, would be without some of the following equipment. For example, you would probably want to make sure that your phonograph is working at the proper speed. Several devices which are sure that your turntable is operating correctly might be some of the various strobe discs that you'll find on the market. Although since these are useful for 78 players and later ones for the 45 and 33, these might become collectible since, well, your CD doesn't really need one, does it? But these usually in the United States are going to be strobe for alternating current of 60 hertz, 60 cycles per second. You may have a little problem if you come across a European model which is 50 hertz, and your machine's going to be running at the wrong speed. Of course, you don't have to use a strobe device. You might use a centrifugal record speed indicator. Simply place the hole of the indicator over the spindle, turn on your machine, and when it's operating at the proper speed, the little weight will throw itself out and line up the pointer with the indicator mark index on the end of the speed indicator, and at that point you'll have your machine set to the exact proper speed, 78 RPM. And of course, to keep your machine working properly, you'll want to use the best lubricants that are on the market. Silver Tone Mainspring lubricant, Sears Roebuck and Company, Chicago, Dallas, Seattle, and Philadelphia, with directions on how to apply the grease to your mainsprings without getting any on your hands. Good luck. Eureka Noiseless Talking Machine lubricant, various tins of different manufacturers of grease and lubricant, along with most major manufacturers, Edison, Victor, Columbia, all had their labeled and marketed tins for oils and lubricants. And maybe for playing your your records, you'll want to use a fiber needle, and some of the types of fiber cactus needles, the round needles, since those can be a little hard to locate and maybe a little expensive, you'll want to use the Phonograph needle sharpener. With this device you can repoint your needles by attaching the little emery board and putting in the needle into the collet, and then twirling this with your finger automatically rotates the needle and sharpens the point at the same time, so that you'll have a brand new fiber needle. And you'll
Only
need
$1.50.
those. You'll need, yeah, for $1.50. Can't go wrong.
100% profit.
And you'll need that fiber needle sharpener, especially if you use a record repeater. Because with the record repeater, various companies make this device. This is the gold seal repeater, which is probably the lightest weight and safest for your records, being made out of a celluloid material. Simply place this over the record and place the reproducer twin arm with the needle in the slot, and as your record plays, when it gets to the end, and it has to have the record with the lead out groove, electrically recorded record, the reproducer will automatically, in 1/78th of a second, return to the front of the record and begin repeating the selection over again, for as many times as you wish, which, depending on the needle that you use, may be from 2 times to, well, maybe 45 times with some of the new tungstone needles.
Spring has something to do with it.
The bamboo needles can be sharpened with a needle cutters of different types, from the Columbia needle scissors type sharpener, which Columbia has several models. This type, which is very easy to use, as well as a different style similar to the Wade needle cutter, but needle cutters of various types and various styles are something that you'll want to look for. Don't confuse these with a cigar cutter, though.
Or scissors.
They look very similar.
That was neat for $1.
And
It's small one you can store
Yeah,
away.
this is priced for $1. Something that every phonograph dealer should sell along with their fiber needles. And then, of course, you'll want to keep your needles and records in top shape, and keep your records clean. Not only supplying your customers with the appropriate needles for their machines, but also record cleaning pads and devices. Various types of record dusters.
Right.
And for a small fee, we can also have your store name imprinted on these record dusters,
As well as your favorite artists
so you can advertise not only the recording artist, but
or your state.
your store, and you'll have the exact location of where everybody can come to buy their record paraphernalia. The facets of phonograph collecting can lead to not only all these different accessories, but also give pleasure in the fact that you can find articles that are affordable and maybe specialize in a certain area of accessory collecting if you know what to look for, and if you have a keen eye. Not every collector has to collect phonographs or records or horns or cylinders. There are many things out there to collect related to the phonograph industry, the records and so forth, the recording artists. And we hope that our program this afternoon has brought your attention to these different types of things, and that we've offered a little bit of entertainment for you as well.
Robin, you know, along the line you just mentioned the collection, and certainly the what you see here displayed by Dale Cook is just extremely outstanding. And I think, you know, that if you really want to appreciate, you know, when you specialize in a particular area like Dale does, I think Dale deserves a big hand for that.
Yeah. Thank you for your patience. We really had fun, and we hope each of you find that special small collectible. Thank you.
I never saw Dale.
Two in the set. We're not going to break the set. Who will give us $10 for the set? $5? I have 5 on the floor. How about 7? $6? Sold. $5. There you go. Carry records around. Take them out of our show here.
Pay top prices.
Who will open it at 10? $10? How about 7? That's a steal. What do we hear over here? 7? We got 7. I saw a hand go over there. Is that going up for 10? 8. 8 over here. 10 over here.
Yeah, they're up 10.
We have 12. 10's on the floor. Anyone who want to go higher? 10's on the floor. Sold. Maxine, $10.
What is this anyway?
Well, let me see what it is. It's a Edison Standard Model B with a 4-minute adapter. There's no reproducer, but there is a 4-minute adapter. It has an original crank.
That's not Elaine either.
Is there a lid?
That was.
Is there a lid for that? Was a low voltage.
Is there a lid?
Okay.
How's that?
Is there a lid?
Are you going to start it, Riley?
Okay, let's start it at 300.
The lid's not available today.
Today, but it is available.
lid. I have the lid.
Oh, he has a lid.
But I don't have it here on the premises.
Is it equally nice?
Anyone give 300?
Come on, folks, 300 is steel.
How about,
250, 275. Let's start there.
no.
Okay, you start where you want.
Anyone give 3? Again.
Okay. I'll start out with 2.
We have a minimum bid on it.
There we go. There we go.
Yep.
I need another one. I just bought my first one today, so.
Oh.
Yesterday, excuse me.
He's been really enjoying it. He does play, right? Plays well.
I don't know, does it? Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, yeah.
That takes care of that. You give me $50, I'll take it.
But they made them well.
Anybody got videotape in my face?
Put it down, back in your pants would be better.
Quiet, Nichols.
I'm sorry.
It is. Red is the horn. Hang on to it this time.
I don't blame you.
Thanks.
How about 250? Anyone open at 250? We got 250 on the floor. Who would give 225?
What? 275. I'll give 225.
Put it down, it disappeared.
You see, she went to the school, but she hasn't figured out what this is.
Okay.
Try again, Eileen. Try it again.
We've got 250. Anyone want it for 275?
It's the horn and the machine.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. It's a set.
You think you were
We
right? You
have
gotta see her.
250. 260. We have 250. Anyone bid 260? Sold for 250. To him.
The doctor bought another one.
We have 12. 12 once. 13. 13 once. 13 twice. Sold for $13. Well, anybody bid $60 for it? We got 60 on the floor. How about 55? Did you say yeah, Joan?
Yeah.
Yeah, Joan says 55. Do you want her to take it away for 55?
Sure. I think she deserves it.
We have 55 on the floor. Anybody go up to 60? Sold. $55 to Joan. With a rest. Move in. $60? $60? How about 50? $50 for a brass horn, all brass. $50. Victrola 2 reproducer. And it even has a record on it. A Columbia. Wow.
Fire it up.
Shall we fire it up?
Sure. Let's hear it for work. What?
Calculator.
Yeah, I got one. What do you need?
We need it.
Oh, no. Sorry. I got one on my watch. I have a paper table.
Is it at the right speed?
Oh, he's pretty old now. That's probably right.
This is a steel phone. Did you recognize one?
If we're right next to you? 150. All right, we have 100 on the floor.
105.
105. Let's jump it up. 110. 110's here. 115. 125 right down here. Can you go a little higher? 125's here.
135.
135.
Whoa, somebody's mad.
135. 140 over here. Did I hear 145? 145. 145. 150. 150. 151? 151?
I was surprised looking at her face.
153. 155. 155. 155 once.
No, that's a big size.
156. 157. 158. 160. 161. 165. 165 once.
It should be smooth.
165 twice. Anybody want to jump in? 165 sold. Right here. Dennis.
Head down.
Let us pray. Almighty God, Lord of time and space, Lord of light and darkness, Lord of sound and silence, we praise you for the gift of the senses of our lives which enhance the enjoyment of life. We thank you for the gifts that you give of friendship, the friendships that we kindle over the years. Remind us of those whose senses are only that of hunger and fear. Help us to apply ourselves to remove the anxiety and the terrorism and the bloodshed from this world and bring peace. Now, Lord, bless this food to our use and us to your service. In your holy name we ask it. Amen.
I'd like to take some time before we get started in our program to say some thank yous to some very hard-working people. I know we do this every year, but every year those same people and many others helping them do a lot of work, and we say thank you for that. I'd like to have Kenny, if you would, come up to the front here for a minute. Kenny Stokes, the chairman of the board.
Has anybody ever seen me lost for words? I wrote down a few thank yous. I don't have glasses and I'm in the dark, so.
Jerry.
Maxine Burkhardt, Doreen Edfalter, and Dolores Osborne. Thank you again, year after year. We open that door. John Whitaker lined up the seminars this year. Thanks, John. John Hogger, 5th year in setting up displays. John Johnson, keeping straight the reservations, handling the phonograph contest, and etc., etc. Eileen Stewart, thank you for the auction. This is her 2nd year. She's got her glasses on.
You get to go read.
And I want to thank all the folks for coming, because without everybody here, we wouldn't have this show. Thank you.
We have something here for Kenny. Kenny has conducted the Phonovention now for 5 consecutive years. And I don't know if you know how much work it is to get this thing to come together. It's a lot of work, a lot of detail work. And I'm very indebted to him for the dedication it takes every year to say, all right, I'll do it one more year, which is what he's done most every year.
Sounds like a con.
So we have here some recognition that the club's been good for you for your 5 years. Of course.
Will that go with his wooden horn?
I just
Speechless again, folks.
It's a state mission. One more year.
I'd like also to, is this a floor fight or what? I'd like also to thank Eileen for the work that she put into the auction, and she has some people that she'd like to acknowledge too.
Yeah. Carol Christians, Pat Kneal, Jerry Gochner. Did I get it right? Okay. And all of the people who participated in bidding, and our whole auction, because we had nearly $1,000 in sales, $913 to be exact, and $821.70 went to the sellers, and the club got $183. Letting me have this much fun.
Thank you, Eileen, very much. I have a sound man with me tonight, and I want to say thanks to Bill Stewart, who brought in a microphone that we could use. Apparently this one has a problem or two, and so since this person is in the business of making sound and video recordings, he's got some very nice equipment. I don't know if you know it, but Phil is the person who runs Phil's Junk Shop. It's a TV program on cable in Battle Creek. And he's done a number of episodes, very excellent episodes, dealing with music as most of the time. He's interviewed Dave Apfolter, and he's been to our house, and a number of people. And his programs, I think, are excellent. I was just really impressed with that. So because of that, he's invested some money here, and I think that's very helpful. Our program tonight marks the 90th anniversary of the 1904 World's Fair. And we talked about this back in January. We looked at some of the aspects of the fair. And I'd like to continue that this evening with a look at the preparation for the fair and how it came about. The World's Fair was a catalyst for a lot of the American industries at that time to take off in various directions and improve and expand and do research and move right ahead in their respective areas. The phonograph was no exception. Both Victor and Columbia did very well as a result of their participation in the fair, and as did a number of other companies who sprang up after the fair's kind of catalyst. The Talkophone Company, the Pathé became more popular in this country, and so on. So there was a lot of things happening in the phonograph area too. But I'd like to look a little bit at the fair itself. I'm going to do some logistics here to get the picture just right. We have selections from the movie called Meet Me in St. Louis. And by the time we are finished this evening, you should know the song by heart. The movie stars are people that you're very familiar with. Margaret O'Brien is a very small girl in this movie, the Smith family. And you'll see on other faces I know you'll know. So I'm going to begin by using that as kind of an overture to our presentation tonight, the beginning of the Meet Me in St. Louis movie. That represented that state, and then the balloon with some sort of a rack under it lit up, and they had the skyline of the fair in fireworks hanging in the sky. And so it was quite a spectacular thing. I think there was 350,000 people there that day, and some of the halls were already up, but there was a lot to do in the year that was ahead. So the fair itself got plenty of exposure, and here you see the people on a very cold day digging and so forth for the beginning of things. To get to St. Louis, there were a number of ways you could do that. There was the steamboat was a very popular way of travel in those days, and so a lot of people could come down the Mississippi or the Missouri or the Ohio rivers and converge on St. Louis. That was one of the more popular ways. There was a new bridge built about that time over the Mississippi, which conducted both horses and carriages on the top up here wagons and the new automobile, or the new horseless carriage, which was becoming very popular, although it was still very young in this industry. Below that was a railroad bridge. And so many of the towns and hamlets in the country were hearing this sound. Really well, and I had to work at it again. We did this in January. We started off. You don't get to use your train records very much, right? Yeah. St. Louis had a very well-known landmark in their Union Terminal. How many of you have been to Union Terminal in St. Louis? It's quite a place to visit right now. It's been remodeled and restored, and is now kind of a mall, or kind of a tourist type thing. It's very, very pleasant to visit. I remember going through there in 1941 as a child, very small child at 41. And my mother we were moving to Texas, and my father was already down there, and she was taking my brother and me and our luggage through St. Louis Terminal during the war. And the place was just packed. And I remember feeling like the coats were going to smother me because everybody was wearing coats, and I couldn't see my mother, and I was panicking. It was a scary place for me at first. But going back there, I didn't feel so scared this last time. It wasn't too bad. The administration building was set up as, looked like a Gothic building. That's where all the business of the fair took place, and was a hub of activity. They had set up the turnstiles to get into the fair so that you had to have a 50-cent piece to get in. That's the only way it would let you in. The 50-cent piece triggered a switch which was set up to a set of counters, or a set of machines, that allowed you to tally each half-dollar that was put into the turnstile. So those little dials there you see were the counters that would tell how many people were going through each gate. And then you could take that information at the end of the day and put it into a fairly new technology called the punched card. This was the machine that would punch those totals into punched cards. This is what a typewriter and kind of a counter. And then it could be processed by Herman Hollerith's new punch card accounting machine. This is him in 1908. And it wasn't very long until he sold that to a scale and time clock company, and was later renamed International Business Machines, or as we know it, IBM. So it was the beginning of what we know as the punch card accounting machine. This was the administration building. These were the plans that were shown for some of the buildings on the fair grounds. Oops, I guess that's back there. That looks much better, doesn't it? This was the Palace of Transportation, and it says every imaginable vehicle ever used for transportation will be exhibited. Now this is a promotion, you understand. It says the marked advance in construction of locomotives, railway coaches, sleeping and dining cars, automobiles, and road carriages of every kind are vividly illustrated. In this building, there were 14 miles of railroad tracks. 14 miles of tracks. There was a turntable in the center where a large new locomotive constantly turned on the turntable, and compressed air turned the driving wheels, so you could see how this locomotive would function. The contests between the American Locomotive Company and Baldwin and others were part of the program too, where they were trying to see who had the best tractive effort in their locomotive, who could pull most, and so forth. And so that was an area that was very popular to some, but not to the younger crowd. Where do you suppose the younger crowd was going? They were going to see the automobile, of course. That was the big attraction in 1904. And there had been promised there would be buses that could carry 20 people in one vehicle all around the fairgrounds. And so people were, especially the young, were really interested in those. The other one was the airship idea. The Wright brothers had finally found that you could get an airship off the ground. And so there were a concourse set up with protected areas, and you could test out your airship. If you could make it follow a certain course, there was big prize money for you. And some apparently did do that. So it was kind of a catalyst for the airline industry as well. This was the Palace of Electricity, which of course was still fairly new to a lot of people in this country. Many people did not know what it was like to have electricity in their homes. So the structure cost almost $400,000, and it was, as you see, located on a canal which went through the park area. This was a stream that had been dug and made into a kind of a lake with canals. It's a very beautiful place, as we'll see here after a while. And this is the Palace of Liberal Arts. It was a beautiful place, as you can see. This is the plans for it. It looks very much that way in the photographs. It says it was one of the largest and contains 10 main entrances. How do you have 10 main entrances? You did. It is so constructed that every square foot of space can be utilized. There are no columns or pillars, and massive arches support the roof of that. So it was a very excellent place to visit. That's where the phonograph displays were, by the way. Thomas Edison had promised that he would not have much to do with phonograph at the 1904 World's Fair. And instead he said he had greater things in mind, and sure enough he did. He had an automobile that was powered by one of his new batteries that went from New Jersey all the way to St. Louis without any recharging of the battery, which was quite a feat in those days. And I don't know quite how he did that with that new nickel battery, but he did. He also had power plants set up here, as you might have seen at Greenfield Village. And that was a new idea for many villages and many towns to buy a power plant and to have electricity that way. The number of things that the Edison laboratories had on display there. And then this was the manufacturer's building, Varied Industries. Its dimensions are 525 by 1,200 feet. It's a pretty good sized building. Principal exhibits are housed in office furniture, statuary, decorations, and so forth, manufactured. I don't know how many main entrances it had. This is a center. No, it was the other way. That's right. This is the center of the book, and it's really not all shown there because the building goes for a long ways. This was the largest building of all, and I can't recall what it was. It has towers. The most powerful searchlight in these towers in the country was built there. You see the size of the people right here, and the size of these statues gives you kind of an idea of the proportions of it. This is the same building. I think this is a wider view of it. It was, the Palace of Varied Industries, that's what this was here. And it was a building of combined, I forgot how many square feet, but there was a lot of space in that building, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the aisles had several miles of walking space. Well, going out to see this while it was being constructed was a popular thing. All through the year in 1903, you could go out there. Another thing that was very popular in those days was the long-distance telephone call. And to get a telephone call long distance, you had to speak up, to say the least. Well, we hear the Smiths getting a long-distance telephone call now. Space than any other building on the grounds, having about 18 acres of floor space. I think that was something like 9 football fields or something like that. And will be located on the most conspicuous side of the ground. You can see the emphasis in those days on agriculture. That has kind of changed, hasn't it? Since it contains farm products, this territory, it was the Louisiana Territory, was purchased from France Napoleon for $15 million and settling some debts that we had with France. Well, as I say, going out to see this as it was being constructed was quite a feat. And so here the Smith family is taking the trolley out to see the fair as it's being put together. I got my cues mixed up here. Some of the things that were popular in those days was a book called The Singular Miss Smith. The girls were reading this book because it was about the new woman. That was the title, or the thing. It was about a very wealthy girl who could not figure out why it was so hard to find domestic help. And so she decided to become a domestic herself and see what it was that made it so difficult. Well, of course, while she was doing this, she met a young man who was also posing as, he was an engineer posing as a domestic because he wanted to find out what it was like too. And of course, they lived happily ever after when they got together. Very deep plot. There was a book that boys were reading called The Motor Pirate. And it was about a person who committed terrible crimes with an automobile and could go at fantastic speeds. I believe the automobile was powered by liquid hydrogen. Can you imagine? And so, of course, he robbed and killed and eluded detectives, but got caught in the end, of course. One of the songs that was popular in those days was called Under the Bamboo Tree. And I think some of us probably have those records. I know that you've got this, Mike, and I should have asked you to look for it. But here it's been done as a dance number in the movie, and it was popular because we had just acquired protection of the Philippine Islands. And they were kind of a new thing as a result of the Spanish-American War. And so the Under the Bamboo Tree had a lot to do with the effects on the fair. So here you see the Smiths about at a party about to do Under the Bamboo Tree.
Oh, yes. Want an introduction? Yes, but all right.
One turn every 20 minutes or something like that. It was a huge wheel. You could rent these cars for an evening. You could have a party in the car and just constantly go around for the whole week. Wouldn't that be neat? I think it'd be a great place for a match banquet, don't you? And you could also, people got married in those things, of course. They'd have the whole wedding party in the carriage around the fair. This is a picture of it as it looked in the Chicago Fair. This was the same wheel, Ferris wheel. And it was very large. And here you can see the detail of the cars as they're mounted on the wheel, the circumference of the wheel. The Midway, which was a very popular place, of course, had been a rather scandalous place in the Chicago Exposition, and so they went to great lengths to see that they did not have such a lewd place, a place that was well, a lot of dancing that was lewd and so forth. And so the Ladies' Purity League of St. Louis had a lot to say about what went on in along the Midway. And this was the Boer War that was reenacted every day, and I think several times a day on the battlefield. They fought this. People could sit up there and watch a reenactment of the Boer War. I don't know much about the Boer War, do you? I think it's well named, but other than that, I don't know much about it.
Very boring.
This was a flyer that advertised it. But it doesn't look quite like you probably saw it, but it was very stylized. A number of Indian tribes were encamped out along the edges of these agricultural areas, And along with them were the Philippine tribes, because we had now become the protectors of the Philippine Islands. A number of their tribes were shown in their natural habitat. Many of them lived in stilt houses, many of them lived in tree houses, and so forth. Some of them were very fierce enemies and had to be kept apart from each other because they would kill each other. Some were headhunters, but they had elected that instead of hunting heads, they would settle for dogs. And so the neighborhood suddenly became very scarce on dogs because people could sell them to these people for food. And they, of course, the animal, well, they did. And the Animal League complained, of course, about that, and they even took it to President Roosevelt, who said, well, these are our guests, and that's what they eat. So yes, let them eat the dogs if that's the case. So the dogs didn't win. Here you can see someone watching the tribes here. The Ladies Theater League, though, did say that the tribes would have to put on pants, trousers, because many of them didn't wear anything, and even though it was their natural habitat, they did have to put on some clothes. I think one of the things I would have found the most favorite was this zoo. They had kind of the first time for a zoo where you could have animals in their natural habitat. You could see them with rocks and trees, not just in cages. And this was a slide they had fixed for the elephants. And they said that elephants love to just slide down this thing into the water. So they just did that over and over every day. And they said it was wonderful to just sit there and watch these huge, hulky animals, slide just as it should. Here's kind of a color picture that was developed for a book that St. Louis Historical Society now markets. But you can kind of get a better view in color here of how pleasant this place was and how large the crowds were. I think this is an enhanced photograph made about that time. One of the things about the fair were the lights at night, because at the Chicago exhibition, the lights had been just bulbs hanging, and of course at that time that was the newest thing. But here, the lights were hidden and put behind bushes and into places that were not quite so bright. So the lights were more subtle, and the colors were added to the lights as well. So here the Palace of Transportation, the largest of the palaces there, had lights built into the arches and around the towers and around the shrubbery and so on, which at night were very pleasant to see. Here's the what they call the main picture night. And it's one of the most well-known pictures of the fair altogether. The lights come up and gradually, I understand. This is also what they call the main picture. A number of firsts took place at the World's Fair. One of those was the invention of ice cream cones. The person ran out of dishes for ice cream and borrowed some waffles from the guy next to him and made ice cream cones out of them. Hot tea was not selling very well in August, and so by adding ice to it, the man invented iced tea. Plugs for appliances, that is what we would call outlets, were invented and presented there for the first time. Appliances were simply hardwired into your wall with a wire coming from your box to the appliance. There was no way to plug in or pull the plug out. That was introduced. And there was ice cream that was fruit flavor ice cream frozen fruit flavors, which were like popsicles. And the kids, of course, as they melted, got all over their clothes. And many mothers are not very happy about that as they took them to kind of clean them up a little bit. But it was quite a place, and the number of people attending was enormous. I don't recall just what the figure was. The Olympics took place there that year, the World Olympics, and was very successful. Right. We may hear the organ here, Here we see the... We'll conclude with the Smith family going out to the fair now. This is the way the movie ends. Everybody gets who they wanted. It was a big conflict about whether they would find their true love or not. But they fortunately did. They all went out to the fair. What I want Joan Rolfs to do is give us kind of a commentary of the clothes they wore out there because she was an expert on that. So we'll try to, I'm sorry, you don't have to talk about it, but I want you to notice, I'm sure you'll enjoy the way they didn't just go to the fair in their Levi's and whatever. They wore stuff that you would wear to a wedding or something like that.
Metalwork phonographs, we had a big group in that category. First place was the Edison Holmes and John Whitaker. Second place at Columbia Q, Robin Rolfe. And third place, Victor M. Me. Category number 3, inside horn disc phonographs. First place was the Victor 1012, Larry Crandall. Second place, the Victor VB9 for Larry Hudson. And third place, Victor 4 in a conversion cabinet. That floor model cabinet for Victor 4 was Ken Cook. Category number 4, inside horn cylinder phonographs. First place, Edison 8, Tony Delia, Delia, right there. Second place in Edison Ambrola 30, me! And third place in Edison 10 was Larry Hudson over there. Category number 5, single advertising item. Now there was a big dog there, and there was a rooster there, and there was a bunch of paper. Columbia calendar, 1926 I think it was. That's me. Second place was that Pathé Rooster for Dave Adfalter. And third place in that category was that advertisement of Amos and Andy for Dwayne Wilkie. Category number 6, your choice. Something that didn't fit in the other categories. And first place was the Regina phone. Combination music box and phonograph. Ken Stoll. Second place was the Edison M, the one with the hearing tubes, all nice nickel plated, Don Gappel. And third place, the polyphone, the one with the paper cone, is Jeff Young. Now we got the toy phonograph. There was only 2 entries. First place, the tin upright floor model, me! And second place, the kitty phone with the Joan Rolfs. Camera phone, only 1 was entered, and that was the next camera phone by Dwayne Wilkie over there. And best of show went to Don Gappel with his Edison M. We got one little other item here. I'm going to give John Whitaker this information. He can put it in the bulletin. But this is the list of all the Phonoventions from the start until last year. The first one was 1979, and it was in Jackson, Michigan, and Art Miller was the chairman. Second one was in the Ramada Inn in Lansing. Al Parrish was the chairman. In 1981, here was the first one here at the Pines. Al found this place, and somebody told me that a friend of his flew him in from the airport in Lansing to this airport right back behind the building here. And in 1982, I chaired it here, and in 1983, I chaired it here. 1984, Floyd Sider chaired the Phonovention at the Dorothy in Clare, and he also did it in 1985. In 1986, it was at the Legion Hall in Grand Haven, and Harold Wilmot was the chairperson. 1987, it was at the Turner Dodge House in Lansing, and Paul Ember was chairperson. 1988, it went back to the Dorothy in Clare and Floyd Sider. 1989, it was at the Holiday Inn down in Dearborn, and Lynn Wagner was the chairman. In 1990, it was at the Pines here in Owasco with Ken Stokes. 1991, and 1992, and 1993, and this year, Ken Stokes did it here in this place. So, just think how many years we've been collecting this junk. And showing it off and having a good time and meeting a lot of good friends. Thank you very much for all your help.
Thank you, Nick.